event like this sort of shatters what you think of your community, and it's not going to be easy to sort of recover from that for some people.
Trying to comprehend the unthinkable, an Ottawa community comes together to honor the victims of a horrific crime with a vigil for the 6 people, including 4 children, who were killed in a home. Welcome to Your World Tonight. I'm Stephanie Skandaris. Also on the program, people in Nova Scotia push back on power bills they say are out of control and in some cases cost more than the rent. And we have this.
You definitely get your calls returned quicker. I will say that.
Yeah, there are definitely some perks to being an Oscar winner. But ahead of this year's ceremony, we'll find out why that little golden man doesn't open all the doors. We begin in Ottawa, where a community gathered to remember the victims of a mass killing. 6 people died, 4 of them children. A suspect faces 6 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of attempted murder. Today's vigil took place in a park near the home where they lived. The CBC's Nicole Williams was there.
A memorial overflowing with stuffed animals, flowers, notes, and candles defiantly burning in the wind and rain.
So I just want to say thank you for being here.
Buddhist community leader Narada Kodituwaku addresses the crowd of more than 100 people gathered at this park in Ottawa's South End to say goodbye to those gone far too soon. A 35-year-old mother from Sri Lanka and her 4 young children, all between 7 years and just 2 months old. Mathia Purnam-Wakasan attended Saturday's vigil.
It is sad. It's very, very unfortunate, This Canada is a great country, and as a Canadian, we have to come together and we have to help each other.
They were among the 6 people killed in a mass stabbing at a townhouse Wednesday night. The other victim, 40-year-old Gamini Amarakon, also from Sri Lanka. Wilson Lowe is one of the councillors for the area where they lived.
An event like this sort of shatters what you think of your community, and it's not going to be easy to sort of recover from that for some people.
Mayor Mark Sutcliffe says it's left a deep scar for people here and for all of Ottawa. Police have described it as one of the city's worst mass killings in recent history.
I want the community to know that that they're supported. I want the families to know that all the people of Ottawa are with them and are grieving with them and are feeling great sympathy for them.
And even further in Sri Lanka, people are coming to grips with the tragedy thousands of miles away. Harsha Kumara Navarante is Sri Lanka's High Commissioner to Canada.
It's not only a tragedy, it's something, huge disaster back home because everybody is in a shock. And to see this, it's a really emotional thing for us.
Husband and father Danishka Wickramasinghe is the only survivor of the attack. He was badly injured and is still in hospital. Kodituwaku has been to visit him.
So he sees the strength, he sees that people are behind him, and so I think, a gathering like this only, make him stronger.
The investigation still ongoing. Ottawa Police Chief Eric Stubbs says with this many victims, it's going to take time.
Our forensic team is still working very hard, and they'll be there again for a couple more days. Very proud of them and the diligence that they're taking to do this right, and we have to do it right.
After a few hours, the crowd thinned out, but the memorial remains as a reminder of who was lost and the hope of keeping their memory alive. Nicole Williams, CBC News, Ottawa.
Some people in Nova Scotia say they're struggling to keep the heat on. They say their power bills are surging, far beyond a recent 6.5% rate hike. Nova Scotia Power says the bills are correct. But as Angela McIver reports, some customers think things aren't adding up.
We keep this door shut here because there's a draft coming up when we first moved in.
Josh Fever and his girlfriend live on the top floor of an older home in Bridgewater. They have a heat pump, and Fever says they rarely touch the settings in order to save on power. So when Fever opened his most recent energy bill, he felt both stumped and defeated. The cost of electricity is now more than his rent.
Getting a bill from Nova Scotia Power that's $1,600, or just about, on top of car payments and rent, and then I got my phone bill and feeding the animals. It's almost impossible.
He's already on the brink of disconnection. Now, Fever says he needs to find a second job.
It'll be a job for Nova Scotia Power, and then a job to live.
He's not the only one struggling to understand. Danielle Fraser says her habits haven't changed, yet her bill tripled.
It's not adding up that the consumption has increased so drastically over a certain period of time with no reasonable explanations.
Fraser formally disputed her bill and now plans to appeal it. She has also signed a petition along with around 3,000 others, calling on the provincial government to investigate Nova Scotia Power's billing practices. Reuben Coward also signed it.
We're complaining because we want to be treated fairly. We know by virtue of the sheer numbers of people that are complaining that fair treatment is not being dispensed to us at least.
According to Efficiency One, a nonprofit that helps people reduce their energy consumption, 43% of households in Nova Scotia are experiencing energy poverty. That's defined as a household spending more than 6% of its income on energy. Chris Lantang with Nova Scotia Power says they will work with customers to set up payment plans and refer them to organizations that can help. But when it comes to the smart meters monitoring consumption, he says they are accurate.
We are confident in the bills that are issued through the dispute resolution officer process over the course of the last few years. Since I've been with Nova Scotia Power, I am not aware of a meter that has been billing a customer wrong.
He says one factor to consider is that January was extremely cold in Nova Scotia, and that can drive up energy use. Angela McIver, CBC News, Bridgewater.
Police and the military have been trying to retake the streets in Haiti's capital, Port-au-Prince, after fighting off attacks by gangs on police stations, prisons, and ports. The violence has paralyzed the Caribbean country for more than a week, and basic supplies are starting to run out. Canadian officials will be at an emergency meeting in Jamaica on Monday to discuss what they call Haiti's dire situation. Paul Hunter has the latest.
On the streets of Port-au-Prince, brutal chaos. Near constant violence throughout the capital. Thousands of gang members battling for power in a country with effectively no way to battle back. Bodies lay on the streets among burnt vehicles, dwindling food, fuel, and water. The gangs forced me to leave my home, says this woman. Now we live on the streets. There's no water, no bathroom. We're in misery. The situation is critical, says this man. We don't have a prime minister. We don't know whether he's dead or alive because he's lost in the wild. Indeed, in a relentlessly poor country, still struggling after that massive earthquake in 2010, a presidential assassination 3 summers ago led to an appointed prime minister who soon faced criticism for not calling elections, while frustration and the power of armed street gangs grew. They're now attacking the capital. Thousands have been killed, injured, or kidnapped. Last month, Prime Minister Ariel Henry fled the country seeking international help. He's believed to be now in Puerto Rico, unable to return. The main gang leader is known as Barbecue. The first objective of the fight, he says, is to ensure that Henry's government does not remain in power by any means.
They've asked Canada to join in the meeting.
Bob Ray, Canada's ambassador to the United Nations, will be in Kingston, Jamaica Monday for an emergency meeting with the U.S., France, and Caribbean leaders seeking a way to begin to turn things around.
There's a lot of steps that we need to take together to get to a path towards stability and a path towards an election. But right now, the violence is very, very serious. The gangs have taken over much of Port-au-Prince and other parts of the country. So we have to move forward together. And that's what we're going to try and do.
For now, the looting, violence, hunger, terror, and misery in Haiti worsens. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
People in Rafah line up to fill jerry cans with water from a truck. Gaza is in desperate need of water, and the UN says it's on the brink of famine. On regular days, we can barely get water. So what about the upcoming Ramadan? This woman asks. Talks for a temporary ceasefire are ongoing, but hopes are dimming that a deal will be reached in time for the Muslim Holy Month, which could begin tomorrow. The United States, United Arab Emirates, and Egypt all airdropped humanitarian aid over Gaza today. The U.S. Department of Defense says its drop included 38,000 meals, hardly a fraction of what is needed in the enclave, which is home to more than 2 million people. Washington plans to build a temporary port off Gaza's coast to deliver aid by sea, but that plan will be costly and time-consuming. A Spanish vessel carrying aid is expected to set sail from Cyprus this weekend, but it's not clear where it will dock when it reaches its destination. In the meantime, UK Foreign Minister David Cameron is calling on Israel to allow more trucks into Gaza.
This is frustrating because we need more aid to go in. In the last few days, we've averaged about 120 trucks of aid going in. We need more like 500 a day, not 120.
In a statement today, Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs criticized Canada and Sweden for resuming funding for UNRWA. More than a dozen countries paused payments to the UN aid agency after Israel accused its staff of taking part in Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. Israel calls the move by Canada and Sweden to resume funding a serious mistake. In northwestern Nigeria, another 15 school children were kidnapped today, snatched by armed gunmen who invaded their boarding school in the early morning hours. It's the latest in a spike of mass kidnappings in Nigeria this week, in which armed groups have taken hundreds of children. As Philip Lee Shannock reports, parents of the children are pushing the Nigerian government to act fast.
Parents of abducted children take to the streets of the northern town of Kuriga in protest. On Thursday, they say gunmen arrived at the local boarding school and opened fire. They took more than 250 students, some as young as 8, and disappeared into the bush. Shehu Lawal is father of 2 of the abducted children.
We plead with the government to help us. We don't have any security in this community, so anytime they want, they will invade the community.
They say the government has abandoned the area to outlaws. On a visit to the town, Kaduna State Governor Uba Sani promised to get the students released.
No child will be left behind. All of them will come back home.
Some students and school staff had been able to escape on their own. Nigerian security forces have been sent to rescue the rest. Amnesty International condemned the abductions in Kaduna, calling on Nigerian authorities to immediately prevent attacks on schools and protect children's lives and their right to an education. The agency says more than 680 people were kidnapped in Nigeria this week, including 400 internally displaced persons from camps in Borno State on the northeastern border with Chad. No group has claimed responsibility for any of the abductions. Nigerian Defense Minister Mohammed Baduri Abubakar says the recent spate of kidnappings may be fueled by the families of abductees crowdfunding to pay ransoms and a fear that their loved ones will be killed.
There is a law that prevents payment of ransom. So it is very sad for people to go over the internet asking for donation to pay ransom. This will only worsen the situation.
Confidence Isaiah McHarry of the African-based firm SBM Intelligence told NPR News that paying is also risky.
The payment of ransom no longer guarantees freedom. In the past, it used to be 80 to 90% chance that once you pay ransom, you're let go. Now it's as low as 50 to 60%.
Still, he says, for people reluctant to put their faith in the authorities, who they feel have abandoned them, paying offers some hope, while possibly contributing to Nigeria's ballooning kidnapping for ransom industry. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, opening up the difficult conversation around cancer drugs for terminally ill patients and why some experts and patients say a common sense approach is necessary when aggressive treatment comes up against quality of life. That story's coming up on Your World Tonight. Voters in Ireland have rejected changes to the language used about women and families in its constitution. The referendum was held yesterday to coincide with International Women's Day. The Taoiseach, or Prime Minister Leo Varadkar, called it to change what he said was old-fashioned and sexist language about women's duties being in the home, and also to broaden the definition of family beyond marriage. The defeat was surprising after previous referendums on same-sex marriage and abortion passed. Critics of this campaign called it confusing and lackluster. 50 years ago in Portugal, a leftist coup d'etat ended decades of authoritarian rule, ushering in democracy. The memory of the deposed dictatorship has long made Portugal wary of far-right influence, even as populist parties gained a foothold in other European countries. Until now, a corruption scandal has allowed an anti-immigrant party to make significant gains. As freelance reporter Alison Roberts tells us, it could play a significant role in the next government after tomorrow's election.
In rain or shine, the Socialist Party is on the streets, chant supporters of Portugal's government on the final day of the campaign, giving a shout-out to leader Pedro Nuno Santos, a former minister under outgoing Prime Minister António Costa. The party has enjoyed more years in power than any other since the 1974 revolution ushered in democracy. Despite surveys showing it on course to lose, supporters remain upbeat.
The Socialist Party has always fought for our values and it defends democracy. I believe we're going to win.
The socialist prospects have been marred by an investigation into irregularities in government contracts. That corruption scandal has helped push a right-of-centre bloc dominated by Portugal's other main party, the PSD, ahead in the polls. PSD President Luís Montenegro says it's time for a change after 8 years of socialist rule.
We have to turn the page. We really have to turn the page.
But his offer of tax cuts and other reforms may not win his coalition a majority in Parliament, even if he links up with yet another smaller party. That's boosted the chances of the far-right party Chega, meaning enough of playing kingmaker. Polls suggest it could more than double its 7% vote share from the last election. Its leader, André Ventura, vows to clean up Portugal.
We've gone through practically a whole campaign in which only our party talked about corruption. Although we have a government that fell because it's allegedly been corrupted, hamstrung, constrained, no one thought it was an important theme.
But Chega's anti-immigrant rhetoric has put it at odds with the centre-right coalition, which has ruled out doing deals with a party its leader calls xenophobic. On the streets, many say Chega harkens back to Portugal's bygone dictatorship. The century-old Communist Party, the only organised resistance under the dictatorship and long a repository for protest votes, is withering, and other left-wing parties look weak. Ana Sá Lopes of Público newspaper notes this is a Europe-wide trend.
In Portugal, maybe it's early to discuss this, but the left disappears. It's a great crisis of the left in Europe. Great crisis.
Issues such as European security and climate change were barely mentioned during this campaign, though activists disrupted some events and on Friday painted slogans on the party's headquarters. Alison Roberts for CBC News, Lisbon.
In Pakistan, former President Asif Ali Zardari has won a parliamentary vote for a second term. It's a largely ceremonial role, but is most known for being commander of the country's armed forces. Zardari first served as president between 2008 and 2013 as leader of the Pakistan People's Party. He took control of the party after his wife, former Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto, was assassinated in a suicide bombing in 2007. It comes days after Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif was officially sworn in for his second term after an election cycle plagued with violence and accusations of vote rigging. A group of oncologists say some cancer drugs are being overused for dying patients. The medications don't significantly extend survival, and the side effects can worsen someone's quality of life. So the doctors are pushing for a global movement, encouraging honest conversations with terminally ill patients and their families. Health reporter Christine Birak has more.
I feel fortunate. I've had a great life, good kids.
We feel quite blessed through this at the same time.
Sitting with his wife Catherine inside their farmhouse in Kingston, Ontario, Tom Somerville remembers hearing, "Your cancer has spread." and you have about 2 years to live. Initially, he underwent 6 exhausting months of chemotherapy before asking his doctor for a break.
He said, you can take off as much as you want. And so we did that, and we had a really good summer.
Tom later stopped treatments altogether.
There wasn't a huge chance of things getting much better. I think if you come to terms with that, it's a lot easier then to sort of enjoy the rest of the life you do have.
Many patients in Tom's position will seek out new cancer drugs, hoping for more time. But a group of doctors at Queen's University say many new drugs offer few benefits while sacrificing the quality of life patients have left.
And the unfortunate reality is some of our treatments don't even help people live longer.
Tom's doctor, Christopher Booth, says every end-stage cancer patient is different. Interventions or treatments like chemotherapy can extend survival, but studies have found around 40% of terminally ill cancer patients were still receiving at least one intervention in the last 30 days of their life. Dr. Booth stresses if someone has 6 months or a year to live, how they spend every day matters.
And if they're going to spend every day, every Monday in the chemotherapy unit, they're probably going to want to know that treatment's going to really help them. I think everyone would agree that a treatment helps people live for extra years or many extra months is probably very helpful. But if a treatment helps someone live for an extra few weeks or an extra couple months with a lot of side effects and a lot of time, different patients will have different perspectives on that.
He and others are now trying to open up conversations around what they call common sense oncology.
And it's a good thing we are having so much interest in finding novel therapeutics for cancer. But my goodness, let's find the answers that matter to patients too.
In cancer research circles, Dr. Elizabeth Eisenhower is a big deal. Before retiring, she ran over 170 drug trials in Canada, the US, and Europe. Eisenhower says in the 1980s, scientists estimated if a cancer drug could shrink a tumor by 20%, it may be of interest. But what started as a random value became an end point for drug companies. Problem is, shrinking tumors doesn't necessarily help patients live longer or better lives.
I'm hoping the common sense oncology movement will do, not just for academics doing trials, but for pharma and for regulators, is make them want to recalibrate what it is they're looking for in those new drugs.
Tom Somerville passed the 2-year survival mark nearly a year ago. He knows he may have traded quantity for quality of life.
For myself, if I was clinging on to hope all the time, it would make the last couple of years very difficult.
Hope can be a tricky thing. For the Somervilles, it now lives in every moment of every day.
But simple things like just walking down to the pond, being out with Catherine, taking little drives in the car when it's a nice sunny day.
You want to take it all in, and those are the simple things that really are not so simple. You realize they're the important things.
Christine Birak, CBC News, Kingston, Ontario.
You are listening to Your World Tonight from CBC News. I'm Stephanie Skandaris. You can hear Your World Tonight and other CBC radio programs wherever you are on your favorite podcast app. Just a quick reminder for you, daylight saving time starts tonight in most of the country. At 2 a.m., the clock will move ahead 1 hour, except, of course, in Yukon and most of Saskatchewan. And there is a serious note here to be extra careful tomorrow. Studies have shown there is an uptick in vehicle and workplace accidents the day after a time change. Well, for many in the film industry, winning an Oscar is a lifelong dream. And tomorrow, several Canadians could have their dream come true at the Academy Awards. The CBC's Eli Glasner spoke to some Canadian Oscar hopefuls. They explain how winning that little gold man can help a fledgling career soar to new heights.
Welcome to Canada's House, the home of the Consul General of Canada in Los Angeles, and this year, there's lots to celebrate.
Childhood sweethearts who reconnect 20 years later and realize they were meant for each other.
What do I have to do? You have to go to the real world.
From writer-director Celine Song's wistful love story, Past Lives, to Ryan Gosling's Ken-tastic performance in Barbie, Canadians are Oscar contenders. Ben Proudfoot already has one Oscar.
One of the first people I introduced myself to was Steven Spielberg after I won.
With The Last Repair Shop, The Halifax filmmaker is aiming for his second.
As a filmmaker, it's less about, hey, can I get paid more or get a higher day rate or whatever, and more about the impact we can have on the culture.
Hello, Margaret.
Hello, Bob.
The all too real emotions of a married couple made the animated short Bob's Birthday an Oscar winner. Vancouverites Dave Fine and Alison Snowden are the married couple behind it. Fine says it was a blur when their names were called.
Tom Hanks and Sharon Stone were clapping. And in my head, I thought, I wonder what they're clapping about. And I realized, oh yeah, us.
That little gold man helped the couple turn the short into a series.
It opens those doors. So people went, oh, you're an Oscar winner. Okay, we'd love to hear what you're thinking.
You definitely get your calls returned quicker. I will say that.
J. Miles Dale is the Canadian producer behind films such as Nightmare Alley and The Shape of Water. He says an army of Toronto talent helped share the credit for bringing the strange stories to life.
It's just such a wonderful affirmation of their work, and for me personally, as a Canadian filmmaker, to be able to shine a light on those people and their careers and their accomplishments like that was really gratifying.
Canadian composer Michael Dana's global music style helped make Life of Pi an Oscar winner. Over a decade later, he says he's still getting thank yous.
The engineer we had in Madras, who's like, oh, sir, I'm so grateful to be a part, yeah, it means something.
But Hollywood can be fickle.
It's a kind of a weird thing. An Oscar means kind of everything and nothing in this town. You still have to get the job. And by the way, you could get fired in a minute, and your Oscar wouldn't save you from that. It's always, it's how good are you right now today?
Still, Oscars can change lives, particularly, say the animators, in the smaller categories.
Just your average young person can aspire to, to try and aim for an Oscar.
I grew up in Toronto as a young filmmaker, and for me, genuinely, when I watched the Oscars, the categories that I was most excited about seeing was the short film categories, where they would show a little clip, just a little clip from these short films, and I would be so inspired.
They say you don't need a Barbie-sized budget to compete, just the right idea that could become the next Oscar-winning story. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Los Angeles.
To a certain group of people, that song will be instantly familiar, and you'll already know why we're playing it. And to be clear, that group is enormous. This is the theme to Dragon Ball, the 1984 manga series about an alien boy named Goku and his quest for 7 Dragon Balls to defend Earth. It started as a comic and spawned video games, films, and TV shows broadcast in more than 40 countries. It was the most famous creation by Akira Toriyama. His production studio has revealed he died on March 1st from an acute subdural hematoma, a blood clot in his brain. Born in Nagoya, Japan in 1955, Toriyama would have massive influence on the manga comic world and beyond, as Japan's chief cabinet secretary said in a tribute. Toriyama's work led to a broad recognition around the world of the content published in Japan, he says, and an increase in inbound tourists. His work has played an extremely important role in demonstrating Japan's soft power. Outside of his home country, Toriyama was equally famous. France's president has posted a tribute. El Salvador declared nationwide mourning. Toriyama's studio said, "It's our deep regret that he still had several works in the middle of creation with great enthusiasm." It hasn't said if or when those works will be released. Akira Toriyama was 68 years old. You've been listening to Your World Tonight. I'm Stephanie Skenderis. Thank you for being with us. Good night.